Hi guys, welcome to day 2 of Get to Base Camp. I am so excited about today's video because we're going to be going over how to screen your movement at home. So if you've been following us, you have heard me talk about a functional movement screen. And now this is the place to start before you do any exercises, because this will allow you to see, can you do certain movement patterns? Because if not, if we can't do it, or there's any compensations or asymmetries between those right and left sides, over time, that can lead to biomechanical inefficiencies, and then that can lead to pain or injuries and all those things, and we want to avoid that, right? So we're going to do some fundamental movements. And now if you're doing these in person with a movement professional, then the scoring criteria is either a 1, 2, or 3. Now, since you're doing this at home, we're going to keep it super simple. It's just going to be a pass or fail. So if you meet the criteria, congrats, you pass. If not, it does mean we failed that screen, but I don't want you to feel like, oh my gosh, I just failed. All that means is we want to do some corrective exercises to help gain the proper mobility, stability, or motor control, whichever one we need to help reinforce that pattern. So, and as you'll see in some of these videos, I'm clearly doing some work for my ankle and my shoulder because I have some restrictions there. Now, the one caveat to this is that if you have any pain, so it doesn't matter if you can do the movement or not, but if you have any pain with any of these movements, go see a medical professional, because otherwise you are going to try to bring a fitness solution to a medical problem. So now, I am not a medical professional. So if you're in Beaufort, South Carolina, I highly recommend go see Carolina Sports Care. Their team is amazing. They will take care of you. So who's ready to screen their movement? Let's get started. Standing in a doorway, place a piece of painter's tape 1 foot length away from the doorway and stand with your feet shoulder width apart with your toes facing forward. Next, squat down as low as you can, holding at the bottom for just a moment, and then return to the starting position. If the top of the doorway is preventing you from extending your arms overhead, extend them as you start to descend into the squat. To get a passing score, it means our heels are flat on the floor, our feet are parallel, not sliding or rotating, our hips are below the knees are over feet, and no part of the body or dowel is touching the doorway. I did elevate my heels here, and as I did that, my feet were no longer sliding out quite as much. I still did not receive a passing score on the squat, but allows me as a trainer to see that our corrective exercises need to target lower body dysfunction. Place a piece of tape on the doorway that's the height of the bump that's on your tibia. It's right under the kneecap. We're going to do that on both sides here. So this screen is going to examine the asymmetrical movement of taking a step, which means our right and left sides are doing 2 opposing movements at the same time. All right, so stand with your feet together just behind that piece of tape, then slowly lift one of your legs, and you're gonna step over that piece of tape, lightly tap your heel on the ground, and then return to that starting position. So make sure that weight stays in that supporting leg. It is not a transfer of weight on that heel. You're just lightly tapping it and returning to that starting position. A passing score means our hips, knees, and ankles are aligned forward, our dowel is not dipping or touching the doorway, and there's little to no movement in the spine. Setting up for the lunge, you are going to get a piece of tape that is the height of your tibia, so measure from that little bump just under your knee all the way down to the floor. Then take that piece of tape, put it in the middle of the floor, and place one heel at the top and then the opposite foot at the end. Next, you're going to go into a lunge and then return to the starting position. So a passing score means minimal movement in the upper body. Our feet remain on the tape. Our back knee is touching the heel of the front foot. The dowel is not touching the wall, and the dowel is not dipping to the right or left. And we're going to do this on both sides, and you have up to 3 chances on both sides. So for the active straight leg raise, you are going to lay next to your doorway with the door jamb being just about mid-thigh, and whichever leg is closest to the doorway, you are going to lift that leg while maintaining the other leg straight on the ground. A passing score means the outside of the ankle bone clears the front of the door jamb. The outside leg does not move. The foot of the outside leg points straight up, and the knee of outside leg extends with no flexing. So you can see here, we have a small bathroom here, so that door will not open any further. So I'm kind of positioned awkwardly, so you might need to use multiple doorways if you need. So just keep that in mind. Next, we have the seated rotation. So sit cross-legged on the floor with each foot being on the opposite side of the doorway, and take your dowel, place it against your collarbone, and make sure it maintains that position the whole time. So you are going to, maintaining a nice neutral spine, you're going to slowly rotate until the dowel hits the door jamb. And as you do this, avoid leaning forward or leaning back. Maintain that nice neutral spine as you rotate to each side. And lastly, we have the overhead squat assessment. So you're going to stand with your feet about shoulder width apart. You're going to raise your arms overhead and descend into a squat as low as you can go. Return to that starting position. You'll do one facing the camera, then to the side, then to the back to get the posterior view, and then the other side as well. Clearly, I am not the best example here because I have some restriction at my ankle complex as well as in my shoulder as well. You can see my arms tend to fall forward, my feet tend to turn out. But nonetheless, this is a great example, or just a great assessment for your trainer to see your movement patterns, so that way as they're giving you some corrective exercises, they know which muscles are going to be short and overactive and which ones are underactive and lengthened and need to be activated.